Hello, hello, my brothers and our beloved sisters. Dave Rogers here, Mike side one more time. We are Black Men Declare. We're here to change the narrative, to give you a perspective from Black folks, especially Black men. We have with us in the studio today our very own, our beloved, Dr. William Tell. Dr. Tell, what's on your heart, my brother?
Greetings to you, Dr. Rogers, and greetings to our sisters and brothers of Black Men Declare. I just recently saw and read an article where in the state of Maryland and in some other states, they are now beginning to directly send children that's in high school in elementary school, that is, instead of dealing with them, instead of talking to them, instead of counseling them, they are sending them directly to a hospital and stating that they are they are emotionally disturbed. Now, with having these young people go to a hospital being labeled as emotionally disturbed, then they are putting them into a pipeline where they will be either put out of school or they will be put into some sort of penitentiary or into some sort of mental hospital, psychiatric hospital. And I'm trying to figure out what happened to when you have a youth, especially a child, when they are acting up or they're acting out or they might be just having a bad day. In the Bible, it says that foolishness is bound up in a child, but the rod of correction drives it far away. I'm trying to figure out, and I want to get the opinion of our brothers, why is it that we are now having these school systems, instead of disciplining them, bringing out this foolishness, they are sending them to hospitals where they're saying that they are mentally disturbed, or they are sending them to other facilities where they are then being labeled unfit and uncontrollable. And then we all know that once you are labeled that, then that is just a beginning pipeline for our children to be incarcerated. So I don't know why this is happening, but I wanted to get the opinions of our brothers and get the opinions of our listening audience. As always, blessings to you all.
Greetings, my brothers and my sisters. Ben Danica here. I'm a little behind the sign of hearing a little bit about this context. But I mean, it is, in my opinion, another subject matter that has to get kicked down the road. We seem to be avoiding conversations that are confrontational on a regular basis. And this seems like one of those confrontations that we've got young lives at stake. But to put it off to another organization, another group of ineffective people, no decisions are being made, it's a travesty. I don't have an answer at this point, Dr. Tell, because when you kick the can down the road, where does the can stop being kicked? Who has to say so? And as they say, the buck stops where? So it is not a situation that we're talking medical. We're talking social, environmental. But where does the can get kicked? And I'm challenged by knowing that designation or deportation part of a decision-making process. I'll share that in love. Peace.
Peace, family. This is your boy Denmark. Good to be on with my brothers, my colleagues in this fight for truth, freedom, justice, and equality. And Brother Tell, I think you said it in your last statement. I think this is the big setup for the prisoner pipeline with our children. As of recently, past 5 years, there's been more eyes paid attention to the school to prison pipeline. And so I think the focus has been on that. So I think the new way to do it is send them to somewhere to say that they're unfit or they're troubled to get some type of mental health, get in the system, then we could chart them off to prisoner pipeline. This is the one thing about white supremacy. They're always thinking ahead. We as black folks, we mostly think at the moment, what's happening at the moment, and we react to that. Well, they are reacting and saying, okay, got us red-handed with the straight school to prison pipeline. So let's add an additional step in there. It'll seem like we care, and it'll seem like we not doing a school to prison pipeline, but this is just a big setup for that. So we got to keep our eyes on it. And I'm a big advocate now of taking our kids actually out of the school system. I think we have known for the past at least 40 to 50 years that the school system has not overall benefited our black kids the way that they have white. So much data is out there. I'm not going to go into it right now, but there's so much data that says a black kid that has a black teacher is bound to do way better than a black kid who's going through school with the majority white teachers. So I think it's time that we reevaluate the whole school system and start back to where we have those churches that have the school systems with qualified teachers and training our own children, and stop sending our children out to the killing fields. Peace, family.
Good morning. Good evening, my brothers. This is Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. I take that, brother, as being public schools. You wouldn't have that in private schools. And I take that as being black students, majority black students. And I take that. So we know, for example, I'll give you an example. I was reading an article last week on I always read about my home city down in Laurel, Mississippi. And I look at the school systems down there, which they have 3 high schools there. They call Northeast Jones, West Jones, and the city school, Laurel High School. And I was reading an article on West Jones, which is a performing high school. They said that they have outstanding science STEMs program. And then you look at the Laurel Inner City School, and then they start talking, they are from a disadvantaged, they have disadvantaged income students. I'm saying, what is this? So that tells me there that the zip code plays a part. Now, this article also, I was reading, when you mentioned that, they were saying something about lack of counselors because around in those cities, I know public schools, they probably don't have certified psychiatrists or counselors, behavior. And they basically were saying some was lack of funding and poor reimbursement rate, meaning mental health providers are often not adequately reimbursed by insurance companies or government programs. And then it said low retention. The current numbers of mental health professionals does not meet the needs of the population. So it tells me there, it's a shame that they're handcuffing students and sending them to mental institution without, stopping there at the school system, where you have counselors, but when they quick to act, and that's a shock to students. You handcuff someone, and that has a devastating effect on a young person. And some just don't recover from that, and they feel that system failed them, and they fall into gangs, and there we go again, a child lost to the system. So I said it in love, brothers.
Well, brothers, this is the most perplexing question of how this happens and why it happens. But you have people now attempting to implement creative, sophisticated programs that may hide the systemic racism and white supremacy that exists in this pipeline to prison. Let me quickly share these numbers. 40% of students expelled from U.S. schools each year are Black. 70% of students involved in in-school arrests or referred to law enforcement are Black or Latino. 3.5 times Black students are more likely to be suspended than whites. 50% of children in foster care are Black or Latino. 30% of foster case youth entering the juvenile justice system placement-related behavioral cases are Black. 25% of young people leaving foster care will be incarcerated within a few years after turning 16. Those numbers are staggering. So it should tell all of us that if you don't have some kind of structure at home, be it a single parent that is willing to instill some structure, be it some other bigger brother, big sister, friends, relatives, without some level of structure, that system is going to eat you up, because a child needs some level of structure. There's no such thing as we just going to give them freelance. They're going to let them do what they do. For whatever reason, there are some children that may be able to really thrive in such an environment, but most students need some form of structure. And unfortunately, we know the statistics about families as it relates to Black children. And if those Black children have to go into a school environment that's already riddled with, institutionalized racism, systemic racism, white supremacy, white nationalism, and all of that, those people that are there, they may not even be aware of the fact cognitively of their full spiritual condemnation of a Black child. So I would say to you, Dr. Till, that all of these so-called creative ideals to theoretically reduce the number of young Black boys, especially Black boys, in that process is not going to work. We got to get back to the front of the process. And the front of that process means some kind of way that home environment. Again, it doesn't matter what kind of surrogate environment or what kind of, intact it may be, but it begins there. Because especially if you go into a public school, it's unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't even matter if you have a Black teacher. But if you go into one and where you've got white teachers in that public school, that child is going to be kind of hung out to dry if their parent is not really, really involved. I know of cases where very brilliant young boys playing around, even in the lunchroom sometime, were caught up in situations where if parents were not involved, that very thing would have happened. That young man would have got something put in his record. The next teacher would have looked at it. He could have been a bright child. The first time she would have seen that child saying something, doing something that she deemed inappropriate, bam, something else would have been slapped in that file. And so if they miss you in the 3rd or 4th grade, bam, they catch you in the 5th grade. They want to snatch you before you go to middle school. So, brother, it's a serious issue that we got going on. Now, I don't know, Dr. Till, if we answered everything, but want to give you a few seconds to come back and wrap up or clean up with your own thoughts.
Yeah, I would say I appreciate all the thoughts that everyone has said and even the suggestions. I am in agreement with Brother Denmark. I would love for most people to start going back to homeschooling, or as the church would stand up and start teaching and opening up its buildings and turning them into schools. I don't understand why a church would be only used on Sunday. This will give them an opportunity to really invest into our young people. But I look forward to hearing what our listening audience has to say, maybe some suggestions and maybe some critiques on how to bring about some conflict resolution and teaching conflict resolution for our young people.
All right, brother. Well, that's powerful. We'll see follow up in a few months in 2024. Let's see if there's been any improvement in that. But I would agree with you and Denmark on that. But we also have with us tonight Dr. Ben Banneker. Dr. Ben, what's on your heart tonight? What you guys you want to chat about?
I would like to ask the Brotherhood and the listening audience. I am residing in the Deep South, and I have been thrust in my face a topic of interest that troubles me greatly. In the Memphis City schools, the Memphis City officials, faith-based leaders address an after-school Satanic club to be taught on public city ground, in the school, after school. And I'm sure, at least I'm thinking, that other cities and other school systems might endeavor in such a teaching of a Satanic club in the school system. Now, this is a bait and switch conversation in that I wonder if the inquiry and or the topic of discussion would be so confrontational that they're trying to say that religion is not in order to be in public schools to have a conversation about it. But I mean, one could say that this is a discussion and a conversation that you want to just regulate all teachings in the school system, whether you be any other ethnicity or any other religion, that you can't teach any school system, any teaching of any sorts in public schools. Now, there has always been the situation that you don't mix politics and religion together. But what say you, my brothers and my listening audience, that the Memphis City school systems are going to confront in their face a group that's trying to teach Satanic whatever in a public school system, and it is a high school and a middle school. It's two schools currently right now, and I'm challenged. I'm angry that even something like that would exist and or be brought up. That you have a Satanic club, and that's what it's called. So, what say you, my brothers and my sisters, and our fellow listening audience?
Greetings again, Dr. Banneker, Brother William Tell. I would say definitely one, that it is the responsibility of the church and those who claim to be followers of Christ to stand up against such activity. It's funny that they would take prayer out of school or Christian prayers and now go to a moment of silence, but they would allow that. Secondly, because people have come across or come against Christianity being taught in school, or there has to be an inclusion. Unfortunately, that's what you will have. But it doesn't negate the fact that people ought to stand up and protest. And one, pray, and then two, make this group or this club so uncomfortable by protesting, by talking out against it, that they decide, you know what, it's not worth us meeting any longer, or us meeting out any longer out in the public. So I don't fault the school system, but I fault those who proclaim to be believers and followers of Christ to not stand up and make it uncomfortable. As always, blessings.
Peace, family. Yeah, this one is strange, man. And this is one of those cases where the believing body shows its weakness. I believe this is where the believing body, no matter what you call yourself, if you say you believe in God, we have gotten so weak that we bow down and submit and allow things to happen without going to battle for righteousness. It's not just this subject, but being that we're talking about this subject, this just brings it to light of how weak the believing body has become. All over the world, things like this is happening, and the believing body is just sitting by idly, not saying nothing, not saying nothing. And this is very frustrating. Even for myself to think about, just like, I sit around with situations like this and I think, what more can I do to help righteousness come back into play? It's like we are at war. It's a war going on, and the wickedness is winning. The wickedness is winning. I mean, I can't see it no other way. It's whether it's the satanic stuff that you're about, whether it's homosexuality, it's just all over, and we just sitting by, filling up the churches on Sunday or Friday or whatever day you serve, filling it up, but the wickedness is continuing to run rapid across the world. So, I mean, I know I'm talking broadly. I'm not dealing directly with this subject because it's just frustrating just to hear this kind of stuff. That you look here in Atlanta where they had a homosexual school where your child can come and they can, continue to promote those ideas in your children's head. He said nothing. We said nothing. I don't know, brother. It's a fight for freedom, justice, equality, righteousness. Oh, my God. Peace, family.
Mm-hmm. Well, I must say, Dr. Batica, this is one of the most outrageous attempts to demonize the school system and just straight out in your face that I've ever seen. So it gives us an example when you look at the rationale from those who put the program together, that it's just supposed to show Satan as a metaphorical, mystical type of creature or person or entity, where the emphasis is going to be on wholesome things like science and literature and games and all of this kind of stuff. But the problem is that at that age, elementary, that if that child begins to open themselves up to the possibility, like Denmark just mentioned, where it was a kindergarten thing, When those children open those up to themselves, it's very dangerous because they don't have the ability to filter. They don't have the ability to do any of that. And so they may look at it on an equivalency basis that, hey, there's a God, but it's a Satan, it's a devil, it's a whatever. But hey, there's good things about Satan. There's bad things about God, whatever. You know, they don't have the ability because their minds have not developed that kind of capability. So I scratch my head as to how in the world. Now, that particular information that I read, it goes on to say that if the school is unwilling to support it, that they may give consideration to renting another place. And I scratched my head and said, what parent? Well, you know what parent would do that? Those parents that would think, feel, and believe that if somebody took care of their child from the time they got out of school until 5:30 or 6 o'clock, that would be a great help to them. Not realizing that how is that going to help you? That's going to give you another issue that you're going to have to try to deal with. How are you going to debottleneck that stronghold? So somebody said, hey, you got to consider First Amendment and all of this kind of stuff. I mean, we're getting too crazy. I mean, it's almost like the people were communicating the other day, the presidents, on the concept of anti-Semitism and all of that it depends on the context. You know, what's the contextual nature? Well, at the end of the day, what is everything we ever known about Satan, the devil, Lucifer, whatever? That total corporate mindset has been something that's negative, that's bad, that's whatever. But now you do have an emerging small, although small, but there is an emerging segment of the population that believes it allows you to be a free thinker, that you are not theoretically controlled by some religious dogma. And so I'm very much concerned as you are, Dr. Banneker, but I want to make sure we give you an opportunity to share your closing comments on this subject matter. It's very disturbing.
W.E.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just jumped all over you, W.E., because
well,
I had to give my word in on that, man.
Well,
that's some serious stuff, man. It's just ridiculous. Come on, W.B.
That's powerful because again, this is Dr. W.B. Du Bois. You know, you come up with you know, I believe that I know that's a trickery of Satan. What he's trying to do is say, oh, okay, we have freedom of religion, you know, so we go try to push this thing and see what they're gonna say. If they're gonna say something, we go let the public, you know, we go be blown out. See, that's how Satan works, you know. So we got a talking point. So again, that's attack on you know, saying okay, you got the first freedom of speech, you got freedom of religion, then you got these lawyers come in. That, you know, it's a trickery. So you got to stand firm in your belief. You stand firm, especially if you have to know their tactics. That's the number one. And I believe their tactics is get the news and, you know, get publicized. I'm gonna say it like that. So that's the tactic. And so our tactic is to stand firm, and that's what it is. See, you know, Satan is slick, man. He's slick. I can see all through him. He is slick. So we you know, I think that was a brother, but not Banneker. Yeah, brother Banneker, I believe, was no, not. I'm sorry. Take it back, brother. Said that they're winning. They're winning. Yeah, in this life, they're winning. Satan knows he's defeated, but he's not winning. In the end, he's defeated. So we have to get that out. He's not winning. He's not winning. So he knows he's defeated, but the unbelievers think he's winning. So I'm gonna put it out there like that. He's a loser, and that Satan knows it, and his cohorts knows he's a loser. So what he's trying to say, these unbelievers, he's winning. I say that in love.
Amen. Powerful, brother. I'm glad we didn't overlook you. That was my fault. I kind of got a little excited there for a moment. But Dr. Banneker, you want to wrap it up for us? What's your thoughts?
Yes, guys. I will close the topic in saying, in the Bible, in either Exodus or Isaiah, says God puts no other God before him. People, whether you be in America or in any other part of the world, you can't put another God before our Father God in heaven. And this is a smack in the face to God's primary purpose. Is a jealous God, someone who has a little kid in elementary school would want to do something like this, whether he's teaching the games of the instruction school or social studies. God is fair, Dr. Banneker, Dr. E.B. Du Bois, that Satan is a slickster, and he will he'll weave into any subject matter, any instance that he wants to get involved in, be a corruption to the kingdom of God. I share that in love.
All right. Another one of those that we got to watch closely, brothers. I mean, already the prisoner pipeline. Now you got folks trying to slide in these. All they need to do is open up the mind of somebody. Just open them up to the possibility. Once it's opened up to the possibility, at that age, you have no filtration device. Very, very dangerous situation. Brother Denmark, how you doing tonight, brother? What's on your heart?
I'm good, brother. Good to be in with my family as always. Scanning the net today, man, and just seeing that one of the banks that I heavily bank with, Navy Federal Credit Union, is being charged or is in the news of the nation's largest credit union rejecting more than half its Black's conventional mortgage applications. More than half. I thought that Navy Federal Credit Union was a pretty decent bank as it related to minorities or blacks. So, but I see here that that they are doing the same mortgage redlining as some of the other banks. And I thought about this. Every time there's a case for reparation or a talk for reparation, you have some white folks come up and say, well, it didn't affect you. It only affected your ancestors and we didn't have anything to do. But this is a case where this is still happening. Another incident with the bank rejecting black folks. So my question is this another case or another tick mark on our fight for reparations as it relates to black people in America?
Greetings to you, Dr. Denmark, and greetings again to our listening audience. I would say, not only is this another tick to or another point to say that we reparations is necessary and needed now, but it also points out to the fact that we as people of color need to go back and do and get our own banks, that we need to start banking with our own people so that we can generate and circulate monies within ourselves. We'll be able to assist people that look like us. We'll be able to borrow from people that look like us and that's more sympathetic, and not just sympathetic, but willing to teach. If I teach you how to spend your money, then and how to properly save and how to properly spend, then you become not a liability, but you become an access. You become a person who we can trust to invest our money into, because you have learned how to properly handle your finances. So I think not only does this point out, I'm highly disappointed because I bank with Navy Federal, and Navy Federal is the largest credit union and really banking institution that deals with our military. So if you're talking about a good majority of people who are in the military and they are people of color, but then they're banking with this credit union, and then they are being denied, then why do we need to constantly go back and deal with them? We need to get our own. We've done it before, and I know that we can do it again. As always, blessings to you all.
Greetings, brothers and sisters, fellow panelists. Ben Banneker, addressing banking. I want to bring to the attention of the group and the listening audience that the Navy Federal Credit Union, or ABC Bank, Chase Manhattan Bank, Bank of America, any bank, is now under auspices of our ancestors, our forefathers, and that all banks are being scrutinized, and there is a collapse of one currency around the world, one denomination. Banking is being combined. There will be a shortage of banking facilities. There's a shortage of currency to be spent, and we'll be using debit cards or electronic cards to transact businesses. It's a smack or a shot against the bar that Navy Federal is really only saying we're going out of business, because the way we would do business, the way business was done, was a pyramid scheme, illegal, and or we took advantage of a whole lot of financial institutions and financial people. Banking is going to stop the corruption. Any transaction of any dollar amount is noted and will be noted in the quantum financial system that's being initiated right now, rather than the fiat banking system. You will not be able to hide. You will not be able to do any banking of any kind without, as I say, Big Brother watching. This is just another example of closing up the loopholes in banking. Unfortunately, we people of color always get the short end of the stick. But this is a banking problem all over the world, with every ethnicity and every denomination. We have to make and know the changes that are going to occur and deal with those changes. But it is happening on a regular basis and a daily basis as we speak today. Banking is on the move to be a different kind of animal than it is right now. I share in love. Peace.
Good evening, my brothers, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. That's a telling article, statistics on, they're denying applicants loans for mortgages on homes. And I would like to know, who are they? Are they're dependents of the military, the one who served this nation? So that's a telling thing there. So that show you again that we have to be our own stewards when it comes down to this monetary system of ours. If we can control that money, we control a lot of things. So again, I would like to know who they turned down. Was the military? Because military goes with the VA loans. And so that's a telling story there. I'd like to know what USAA does. That's another military savings and loan company. I mean, not saving and loan bank. I'd like to know their statistics on VA loan. I mean, not VA loans, but mortgages. So that's a telling thing to me. And that once again, that show you that we are systemically being pushed out, pushed around monetarily. When you don't have that power and that money, they'll just show you the door. So we have to have that power, and power is coming through that money. That money tells the whole story. Not the love of money, but having that money to do our own businesses, giving out loans for mortgages. So that's why we should support a black bank. So we shouldn't be in those situations. So I say that in love.
Brothers, this is a very perplexing and deep question or observation in terms of the banks. Somebody say, let's start opening black banks. Well, we'll need to open a whole bunch of them. The data says that of the 5,400 banks in America, 213 of them are black owned. On a percentage basis, that's 0.00425. You can't even round it up. You can't even round it up to 0.005. So that's the percentage of black-owned banks. Now, we also know that there have been banks recently, one in Los Angeles that was found guilty of denying mortgages to blacks and Latinos. So this question is very, very deep, and it's going to be interesting when we move into this new digital age, if that will change or if it will remain the same. But it's really not that surprising to me in this regard. I can remember having a mindset at one time that truly a bank would not discriminate against you. And truly, if you had a plan or if you had collateral, if you had all of the things that they tell you need, they wouldn't discriminate. And I can remember an occasion when I went in to a bank with a neighbor, to do some business. And in so many words, that I had corporate contracts that were going to be collateral for accounts receivable. It would be accounts receivables as collateral, looking for 80% against those accounts receivables, working with, both multi-billion-dollar companies and all of that. And when I gave my presentation and all of that and had my white friend there with me, they simply said, we're going to think about it. And about a week later, I got a letter in the mail saying, we're sorry, but, we don't do startups. Well, they could have told me that from day one. That was their lie. And I can remember on another occasion, I went in and I actually had money in the bank, this particular bank, thousands of dollars. And I wanted to get a loan on something. And now the money's sitting in their bank. And they came back and said, your debt to earnings ratio is out of whack. And because of that, they didn't understand that when I was in that particular field or activity, that some of the spending that I was doing was expense spending for a company that I worked for. it wasn't all mine all the time, because at one time I may have, in a month basis, I would have $50,000, $75,000 of expenses, and they couldn't understand because there was no way for them to get around this system where they input information and the information spit back out the answer. So that was against me as well. And then I came to the conclusion that you set up these systems so much that even sometimes people that may be theoretically qualified, they get caught up in all the minutia. And so I'm not totally surprised that a Navy bank, never banked there myself, I know where one is near here, that they would have been that negligent, or they would have been that guilty of denying, what was it, half of the blacks. That's sad. That truly is. Because back in the day, I can remember when, again, you'd go in and you tell the banker what you wanted to do, even if your stuff didn't look correct. If you had a plan, the bank would work with you. Those days are over. So I believe today, systemic racism and white supremacy philosophy is being deployed more than ever. It hasn't gotten better, it's gotten worse. And when they go around now and begin to do research on these banks and look at their loan programs, they will find, and this is something that I believe, who was it? Cornel West. Cornel West came out and said, he was mad quite honestly, with Obama. He was like, why don't you order an investigation of all of the banks, and we can see where they stand in terms of loan approval and loan rejection, and get a feel for how widespread this problem is in America. But of course, this is one of the bad sides of former President Obama. He had all of those folks that called themselves Jews in his cabinet. He was in the pocket of those folks on Wall Street, and he didn't do it. He didn't do it. So that was a bit of a chance to do it on a macro level, coming down, doing this particular audit of all banks, but it didn't get done. It still needs to be done, but it didn't get done in that particular time. So then, Mark, don't know if we hit it everywhere you want us to hit it, but you can come on and wrap up where we missed it.
No, I think we hit it out of the park, man. I just think that this is further case, again, why blacks in America, if you can trace your ancestry, any part of your ancestry, to being a slave in America, that we are rightfully due reparations, because the practices of 400 years ago have been redefined, but are still being done in the year 2023. Peace, family.
Peace. Wow, you're right, my brother. Dr. Du Bois, man, this is some good stuff tonight. What you got on your heart, my brother?
Thank you. Thank you, brother. I'm gonna go over into college sports tonight. Picked up on the article about 2 weeks ago. We all heard of the name, image, and likeness, the NIL on these college athletes, which I think is pretty good. Get what they deserve. These coaches, head coaches making millions and millions of dollars, and some of these athletes, not getting nothing. If you go to a bowl game, we know about a bowl game coming up. Look at these big bowl games. So that's millions and millions of dollars for the colleges. So anyway, we had picked up on the article, like I said, and the article is titled, NCAA leaders warn college sports at risk of permanent damage without action from Congress. And I'm going to read a couple of sentences on this. It says the NCAA most powerful, check these conferences out, delivered an urgent plea to congressional leaders last week. We need your help to save college sports, and need it now. Wow. The commissioners of the Big 10, Big 12, and ACC and Southeastern Conference quietly lobbied leaders in both parties, including McConnell and House Democratic leaders Jeffries, to back legislation that would set national standards on how collegiate athletes can profit on their name, image, and likeness. They're warning that a Supreme Court decision 2 years ago that paved the way for companies to pay students athletes has led to a complicated series of state laws that have undermined collegiate sports and could ultimately lead to the collapse of sports programs across the United States. The risk is permanent damage to an enterprise that has meant an awful lot to our country and to those that have benefited from their experiences. This is James Phillips of the ACC Commissioner. Greg Stanky, the SEC Commissioner, had a dire prediction if Congress doesn't act. And now this is the last part. The risk is we see states further build walls around their recruiting grounds, thinking that somehow provides a competitive advantage. The risk is that more and more young people sign agreements and they don't understand. The risk is we move further and further from the academic nature of college sports. Isn't that something? So, my brothers, I just want to ask today, what do you think that NCAA and Power Conference want Congress to act on the name, image, and likeness? I just want to get your feedback on that. Why does these commissioners want these congressional leaders in Congress to act on this name, image, and likeness situation?
Dr. Du Bois, I'll be the first to talk about that. Will tell. I would definitely say greed. You have to look at the fact that if I am a college student and my image is copywritten, then as a team, you are not allowed to use my image unless my expression is or unless you have written or verbal permission from me. And these conferences do not want to have to go and ask or either pay a student to use their imagery doing either commercials or poster or any kind of advertisement. So I believe that that's one of the main reasons why the NCAA has decided that they would like to be able to not allow people to have imagery put out there. And if they do, then they want to make sure that everybody's okay and everybody's paid. But for real, they just want to know and make sure that the people who are lobbying and trying to, they want the students to be more dependent upon the school system and boosters than for them to go out and create and make their own money. Just think about it, and this will be my last point. Just think about it as a college student. Who should I better rely on to survive? Should I go out and sell my image and go out and create my own? Or should I stay attached to the NCAA and have to worry about living my life based upon boosters giving me money secretly? For me, it's no competition. I'm going to continue to go out and be my own man and worry about what I have to say about my image and how I share my image with the world. As always, blessings to you all.
Greetings, my brothers, my fellow panelists. my listening audience, this has been Banneker. Dr. Tell, you hit the nail on the head with the initial first word you mentioned, greed. But the problem with this greed is that they can't figure out not only who to pay or who to receive or how much they want. It's almost as if you're playing around with cannabis or hemp oil or marijuana. They don't know how to break down the numbers to justify who gets a piece of the pie. There has been so much stated on the compensation of these schools getting in these bowl games. We're talking a lot of money. And some schools have an endowment or have, what do you call those, donators or, but it is an inequality, and they haven't mastered the hold on the lack of money or the lack of understanding how to use the money. So it's, to me, it's greed. And who runs the show? The representatives you mentioned, the political representatives you mentioned. I don't know where King Jeffrey fits in, but I know the other guy is about that dollar. How do I get mine? And then you're talking about these political entities getting money for a college, and they're implying, well, you can't give them so much money to a college. They don't need that much money. It's still greed. So you have got another situation of kicking the can down the road. Who makes that decision? Where does the buck stop? And some of these young athletes, past, present, and future, are going to be absolutely financially set before they go into a new level of athletics in the pros. I share that in love. Peace.
Peace, family. That's the audacity of it, those conferences to come in and try to have someone do something about money now. What about the past 40, 50 years of those colleges benefiting off the back of student athletes? What about those years? Where is that money? Show us the paper trail on that. Then we can have a conversation on doing something about the now. But all of these years, those big tycoons sitting up in these conference offices been pocketing money and taking it Lord knows where and putting it in their pocket, in their family pockets. But now the tables is turned. Now they want Congress to act and do something. The audacity of them. I don't care if it breaks college sports. The fact of the matter is these big Power 5 schools and that's playing football and basketball, these let's be real, those students are not, for the most part, going. They're going. A lot of those kids are going because they those Power 5 schools because they believe that they have a chance to make it to said league, and especially in football. They go into these big Power 5 schools because they are thinking that they can make it to the league, and going to those Power 5 schools give them the better chance. If it wasn't for that, then all of these smaller schools, these other schools, they would be faring better in some of these competitions, because if it was just about academics, some of these other schools are just as good academically as these Power 5 schools. So we got to stop playing and think that they're actually like they really going to school to try to get in said league, point blank, period. And I don't care if this break college college sports. Matter of fact, I believe that you should have some type of farm system where these kids, if they had a desire to go play in the semi-pro and the semi-pro teams or whatever is able to pay them a few $100,000 or a few million, then let them go. And I know there's been some dealings with that in basketball from high school to college where kids have skipped college and went and made them millions in these semi-pro basketball leagues or whatever. So, I mean, yeah, education is very needed. Now, I'm not saying that we don't need the education, but let's not act like they just go in there just for the educational purposes. Peace, family.
Wow, Dr. Du Bois. Oh, my goodness. Powerful question. According to the data, they claim only the top 25 D1 schools have more revenues than expenses. That's what they claim. They also say that if everybody got paid, you would have fewer sports because the schools would have to shut down the sports. Now, I think we all know if you looked at those top schools, and football, they say, is the number one generator by far. And we know those top schools, if we looked at statistically the numbers, who would be getting paid the most. This, I believe, is another example of systemic racism. That if you say you want to go, what would they want them to do? To pass a law to say, it's illegal for college athletes to receive money? You see, the name, image, and likeness, it doesn't even supposed to come from the university. But what they're saying now, the problem it causes is that, what about the other athletes? They want some money. They want to get paid something. And, they aren't paid anything, then, it creates problems. And so the other idea they're saying is that if you got involved some kind of way, Congress, we could more evenly distribute, or we could put some kind of floors and ceilings on these name, images, and likeness. And we could say, for example, we could say no athlete would receive over X amount of dollars. And so when that athlete received that, they tapped out. And if you had somebody that wanted to give more money to others, then that would maybe force them to give money to somebody else. But who knows? But the bottom line is that of those top 25 D1 schools, again, the majority of the players are going to be black. And so what you're really saying is that, hey, we need to come up with a plan. We need you to help us. And I'm speculating, but I think the help would be to curtail, to put a cap on, to not allow. I go back to what Denmark is saying, foo you. I mean, it should not be a situation where an athlete giving up their body in college should feel like they are a criminal, to feel like they are a criminal to be able to receive some money for bringing in revenue for those schools. Now, I would agree there are some sports that they're not going to be very profitable, but that's okay. You always have a loss leader, but in this case here, we could say a profitable leader. And that profitable leader for not only that school, but perhaps for that conference, perhaps for that segment of the country, or for the overall programs. That since that much money is coming in, hopefully maybe they're saying to these guys, you need to legalize that it's okay that we can share this over $1 billion that we're making and share it with colleges, that it would be legal, that we would, maybe that's it. I'm hoping, because if they're going in with an idea to stymie or stop these payments, they're going to have a lot of backlash. Because once it's out of the barns now, and people are seeing how much money that's being made by some of these athletes. Now, I hope that some of these athletes could be a little bit more mature. That may not be the right word, but in how they spend that money and how they are seen in spending that money. Because sometimes they may appear to be less than mature, seem to be flamboyant, a whole bunch of things that are not positive. But at the end of the day, I'm leery whenever you have the commissioner, which is made up, of course, a bunch of men by other mothers, come together to speak about a group of men that look like you and me, to say we need your help. Most of the time, there's going to be some kind of stranglehold that they want to put on the group. That's kind of how I see it. Dr. Du Bois, why don't you come and wrap up what we may have missed?
Powerful, brothers. I just want to go down the list on the 2023 list of the 10 athletes, monetary value, the NIL. And these 10 are Bronny James, $7.6 million.
Wow.
Arch Manning, $3.7 million. He's out of the University of Texas. Mickey Williams, University of Memphis, $3.6 million. Caleb Williams, University of Southern California, $3.2 million. Olivia Dunn, Louisiana State. This is a female gymnast, $1 million. Shedeur Sanders of Colorado, I think he has $3.2 million. Marvin Harrison Jr., this says $1.6 million. Hansel Emmanuel out of Northwestern State. Wow, these are the small school, $1.5 million. Sanisa Lee, which is a female athlete from Auburn University, $1.5 million. And I'm going to end it, say Dre May, University of North Carolina. Let's see here. It doesn't give the name, give out much. Here we go, $1.3 million. So they show you, brothers. Bronny James, man, wow, $7.some million. So that's why they're trying to come in, my brothers. These power conferences trying to come in and control an athlete, but they can't. My brother mentioned, go back in history. How much have you made? How much have you made? And how much of these athletes were suffering? Just going to school. You got a scholarship, but still they need money to live on. And when they start making that money, see what happened. So thank you, brothers, for your comments.
Wow, man, that's heavy. And again, it will be interesting to see the retained earnings of the NCAA. I never heard it was a nonprofit organization. So I would love to see what are those retained earnings and where they investing all of that money that they're making. It's going somewhere. Hoping it's not just going into the pockets of the folks that make up that FBSB decision-making process. But brothers, I want to chat just a moment about another thing that's been very intriguing to me. We've seen all of this discussion about NATO, with Ukraine's desire to become a member of NATO, and the United States implying to the Soviet Union years ago that they would not encroach upon them at all, that they would not attempt to bring any of those nations bordering their borders into NATO. We know in 2014 there was a, lack of a better term, coup that occurred in Ukraine. We know that Ukraine has been voted one of the most corrupt nations in the world. And now they're at war with Russia, and even the Pope said that Russia did what they would have done simply because the United States and other NATO members didn't keep up with the deal that was made. And so Russia did what they did. And then on the other hand, you have what's going on over in Gaza, where you have now a situation where the president is saying or allegedly have said that, in so many words, Netanyahu, you just going too far. I mean, you have made your point. You have destroyed Gaza. I mean, they're saying the rate in which those bombs was falling indiscriminately, that half of the bombs were launched didn't even have a end target. They were just launched to destroy. And so our brother from Turkey, he made the decision and said, you know what? I'm going to give up my NATO membership because I can't roll with everything that you all are doing. You know, what you're doing as it relates to Ukraine. I definitely can't relate to what you're doing in terms of Gaza. So I'm turning in my membership. So Turkey has left NATO after the United States again vetoed a UN. Everybody else wanted to vote to say, hey, ceasefire immediately. And the United States opposed it. Like they say, it doesn't mean that it would have necessarily happened, but you would have been on record as opposing further the annihilation and destruction of Gaza. But the United States opposed it, saying that, oh, they have every right to defend. You ain't defending nothing now. You literally are just killing 2 to 3 civilians for every so-called Hamas soldier. So I guess the question is, when you look at that, when you look at what's going on with the BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, and all of the other nations that's now becoming partners with BRIC, when you look at the Saudis becoming more independent of what America wants them to do. And matter of fact, the Saudis own a whole lot more America than we could begin to imagine. So I guess, what does that tell? What does all this tell us? You have a Turkey backing out saying, forget you, NATO. You have these BRICS companies beginning to go ahead and say, we're doing our own currency. We're doing our own thing. We don't have to trade in the dollar. The dollar is like worth a penny for what it was in 1913. It's like about a penny. I mean, are we here? I mean, something's got to happen. We're talking about this digital currency that's supposed to take place. But are we on the edge? And all it takes is a little push, and this thing is going to come crumbling down, because remember, the thing that held it together was faith. Faith in the Declaration, faith in the Constitution. And now on top of that, this ain't got nothing to do with Turkey, but you got 45 acting a fool. Is the United States ready to become a banana republic? Is it ready? Your mics are open. Meaning that it's just like any other third world or developing emerging nation. No control, chaos everywhere.
Peace, family. Sound like our brother William Tell. It's a little delayed, so I'll come in. I actually applauded Turkey for standing up when I read that, or when I heard that they backed out, because I feel like in order to send a message to America that you are not able to bully us and bully the world, we're going to take bold stance. We're going to create BRICS. We're going to back out of NATO. We're not going to support just to unilaterally America and Israel doing their own thing and having free will and free power over all of these countries. So I applaud countries like Turkey. I think there's going to be probably more Middle Eastern countries that start to do the same thing. Along, we know that China and Russia is already balking at a lot of things America does. So I'm happy for Turkey, and I continue to wish that other nations stand up to the giant, and really, it's the little brother that's causing all the trouble. And so I'm just looking for more countries to see where they stand and how this thing plays out.
America, I don't know, man. It's my country, my home, the only place I know as a home, but I just don't know where it stands in God's eyes at this moment. Well, I do, but for the sake of this show, peace, family.
For the
Greetings.
sake of the show.
Yeah, go ahead,
Come on,
Dr.
Tal.
Banner.
Okay, I'll weigh in on we, the United States, and all of the UN countries are about to be pushed. Pushed how far and where we're going to push to fall is a whole nother question. But cookie has crumbled, as they say. We're going to get pushed so hard. I am under the opinion that the supply chain is going to have some problems in the months to come. So I'm not happy that Turkey pulled out of NATO, but somebody has to start the crumbling. And I am offended that the United States has paralleled its political process in authoritarianism. We are going to be pushed. Now, where we're going to fall is a whole other question. I said that in love. Peace.
Well, let me go ahead and make my comments. I agree with both of you all that it has now come to the mindset that to other countries that America is not the power structure or we are not the people who are setting the bar. It is good, as Brother Denmark has said, that Turkey has decided that they're going to be the ones to stand up against America. What I find interesting is that you have so many people trying to still come to America because we are supposed to be the land and the home of the free and those who can come and make money. So it'll be very interesting to see in the next several months if the BRIC will continue to push back to America and do its own thing, or will they go ahead and just stand up and say we're going to do our own things, or will they eventually come back to America and say we apologize, we need your help, we need you to be our big brother? It's going to be very interesting to see how they come back and do.
Good evening, my brothers. It's a powerful question. Turkey pull out of NATO. Turkey is a strategic partner, geographically and politically. If you look at their landscape, the crossroad between Asia and Europe, Turkey has always been a player, for having that seaport, and it's just a strategic area. And to pull out of NATO, it's one of those things that really hurts NATO. So when you ever have United States, a country that is in turmoil politically, can't make decisions, infighting. So how do that look on the world stage? These smaller countries are going to act, but I want to get it right now. United States still have a strong military, So I hope that nothing break out. But again, you're looking at Turkey. Your question is, Turkey pull out of NATO, and this is gonna send a sharp wave through NATO, because Turkey is a key partner And you know, it all started way back in, I think it was 2010, when Israel had a blockade, and Turkey was sending a humanitarian boat there, and Israel fired on the boat. So they're poured and not getting along, been there a long time. And I think it was several Turkish got hurt, killed. And Turkey was asking for apology and reparation, which Israel never did. So that goes back. And again, being a Muslim country, and you know the Hamas, and you know, I mean the Palestinians, being you know majority Muslim, so Turkey has a connection there, and they also supported Hamas. So there's a relationship there. So for United States to again vote not on the ceasefire, so that stirred the pot right there. So again, we just have to see what these BRIC countries and the United States, still powerhouse in the economy too. So as my brother Teo said, we'll see. It's just a wait and see. But again, United States, they're crumbling, like my brother said, like a cookie. They're crumbling. You know, this is my country, but politically, we are in turmoil. This country is divided. It's more divided than the Civil War in the 1960s. So these fools, I'm gonna say it like that. Those fools up there. It's only take a few to stir the whole pot. Those few fools up there in Congress is acting crazy, like always. Say that in love.
You know, brothers, you've hit some great points. And think of it like this. When the United States was the big bully at the playground, having its forces all over the world, stationed in 180 some countries or whatever, all over the Persian Gulf, all over the Middle East. That was like John Perkins told us in the Confessions of the Economic Hitman. That's how the United States rolled. Go over, make your bill and infrastructure for you, overcharge you for the infrastructure. No, you can't make the payments, then say, hey, we need to come over and put a military base here and we'll help protect you, blah, 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 blah. Then interest compounds, and nations never able to pay. But now you look at a Turkey, you know, they're a prosperous place, a prosperous nation. Most people don't see it that way. But you had a very good point, Dr. Du Bois. You got all these Muslim countries around there. And I think, you know, some of them just finally got that tired of saying, you know what? We're sick and tired of America coming over here and, you know, bullying all of our brothers. You know, I mean, we're sick and tired of it. And think about it. Here you got the current president saying that old same tired line, oh, Israel has every right to defend itself. When now everybody almost in the world is saying, man, you have defended yourself enough. It's crystal clear that you are superior in the military complex. You're superior. And when that slipped out, that Biden had inferred that the other nations was beginning to question Netanyahu and Israel. I mean, all of this stuff going on college campuses. You trying to force presidents in presentations before Senate subcommittees to answer the way you think they should answer, when they're trying to answer in a way to say that we want to maintain freedom of speech. It all depends on the context of what somebody is saying. And they want to act like they're all lawyers, most of them. They want to act like they didn't understand what those presidents were saying. So I too applaud people that at some point to say, no, man, enough is enough. You know, you over here, you supposed to be this great place, but you are supporting this nation. You supported them to the point to where they have nuclear capability, you know, and you don't want nobody else have it. Well, Turkey got it. You know, the problem, you know, Saudi Arabia, they got it. but they're on the side of America. I mean, and they got a crazy relationship with Israel. But at some point, who knows? Maybe a higher power made a visit on those leaders. God still makes visits. He still can make some visits. Maybe he had a visit on those leaders over there and said, "Hey, you got to start looking at this thing differently. I'm not supporting the United States in this because they're supporting a false entity. They're supporting people that don't supposed to be supported in this endeavor." And I think you're going to see more countries that's going to begin to say, just like the BRIC nations, enough is enough. Brothers, I don't know if we could even get our minds around the concept that you're $30 trillion in debt. China, Saudi Arabia, Japan, all of these nations own far more of us than we own of them. That's a problem. That's a big problem. I mean, if all of those countries called home, called for their loans to be paid today, tomorrow, next week, next month, what would America do? I mean, we're economically enslaved right now. But because we got that big stick and because we're willing to churn out those IOUs, it doesn't matter. But at some point, they cannot continue. They can't. Something's going to happen. I mean, when you begin to look at the debt per child, per citizen, in America, per couple, any way you look at it, it's astronomical. And so hats off in my mind to Turkey for saying, look, y'all, we're doing this because you just don't have this thing correct. Well, brothers and sisters, it's been our pleasure tonight to share with you, and hopefully one of these subject matters will spur you, enable you, incite you to go and have a conversation with some friends, with some families, with some coworkers, neighbors, somebody to change the narrative, to give a perspective from a black point of view, and especially a black male point of view. It's been a pleasure. And I just want to ask our panelists if anyone has anything they like to share for 30 seconds before we shut it down. Any one of you brothers? Been a beautiful night. All right. Everybody is clear. Hearts and minds are clear. Well, we want you to make sure you do this. Hit that subscription button below. Smash the notification so you know when we come on again. Share this particular presentation with others as well, this discussion. Send us an email if you so like to we'll get that to you. Matter of fact, we're still working on which one we want to use. We have several of them. But send us a note in the comments below and just indicate you have an interest if you like to communicate with us and on a different level. But by all means, whatever you do, go out, have some conversations, get it done, change the narrative. This is no time to be sitting on your hands. You are here for a purpose. You have your challenges. You've had your life experiences, all the chapters in your book of life for a purpose. This is Jerry Rogers, Mike Side, saying go out in peace and love.
Beautiful conversation.
Amen, brother.
Beautiful,
Amen.
man.
Beautiful, man.